In this video, we're going to learn how to create calculated fields inside of a pivot table. Go back if you need to refresh on how to create a pivot table or what one is, please do go back and watch my video on how to create pivot tables, and that'll help you before we start adding formulas to the pivot tables. So here we have a pivot table we'll be using by year. You see media source, product, and then quantity sold, quantity damaged returns, and the damaged returns are items that can't be resold, and then what we spend on media cost for each of, to drive each of these sales. And that information is going to come from this original data set that you see here. That's by month, year, and then all the sales information. So what we want to figure out is what our gross dollars sold were, our net dollars, and the advertising ratio. But we're going to have to add formulas to calculate those. So to do that, we'll want to bring back our field list, and we need to know what the per product price was. So that's going to help us. So we're just going to drag this down to the rows, and it needs to be in the rows. If you add it to the values, it's not going to work because it's per product. We don't need to summarize it or anything. But just so we read this, I'm going to make this give it a little bit of color so it's easier to read, and we'll just make it a gray. So to add the gross dollars, we want to make sure that our cursor is just anywhere here on the pivot table. We'll need to go, the Analyze and Design tabs are part of the pivot table tools options, and you'll see that if I move my cursor outside of the pivot table, they disappear. So we want to make sure that it's in there, and we go to the Analyze tab, and under Calculations, you're going to see Fields, Items, and Sets. So we want to click on Calculated Fields, and we're going to name this Gross Dollars. And we just plug in our formula right below it. So we have our fields right here. So to get the gross dollars, we're going to want to do the per product price times quantity sold. And we just click OK, and you see how that already populates some of gross dollars right here. So we also need to know, we're going to need to know how much money we've lost in damaged inventory. So we're going to go back under the calculations, fields, items, and sets, and add another field, and this will be damaged dollars returned. And same thing, per product price times the quantity of damaged returns, and click OK, and now we know how many of the damaged dollars came back to us. So to get the net dollars, same thing or similar thing, we go under calculated fields, and we'll say net dollars sold. And we go into our formula bar, and this time we're going to take the two formulas we created, and we want to say the gross dollars minus those damaged dollars. And now we have our sum of net dollars. Now that we have our net dollars, we can figure out what the advertising ratio was for this, and that'll help us figure out how effective our advertising dollars were in driving those sales. So now we want to go back to calculated field, and this time we're going to say, we're going to label this advertising ratio, and we're going to say this will be net dollars divided into the media cost. And we scroll over, and you see that we have the ratio here. And for this guy, I just want to change it to a percent because it's easier to read that way. So, oh, not where we want to go. Very sorry. Number format, percent, and 2 decimal places is good. Click OK. And there is our advertising ratio. And if you want to clean this up a little bit, we can go back and rename the headers. So right click on sum of quantity sold and just get rid of quantity sold.
Sum of, I'm sorry.
and add a space on the end because the custom name can't have what the original name had, or you get an error. So I always just add a space at the end. And same thing for this one. Damage returns quantity. Add the space. And you just do that for all of them, and it'll give you a little bit of a cleaner report to look at. So this is how we create calculated fields. They're very simple to do. You just really need to know where to find them and make sure you have the right information. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so you can be sure to catch all the new videos as they come out, and thank you for watching.